Well, hello there.
Hello there.
Pretty excited to see you. Tonight we're going to be talking about 7 things that puppy owners need to know. It's basically like a puppy owner's guide, and we actually have a pretty cool sort of mix of audience tonight because we have some people who are going to be actually coming to our facility for a new puppy seminar. So we figured out how we can sort of adjust some of the information and modify it so that we can do a very similar thing at a distance. But for those of you who are maybe have no idea who we are, maybe this is your first time hanging out with us. My name's Ken Steepe. This is Kayl McCann. We are both professional dog trainers at McCann Dogs. And at McCann Dogs, we've helped more than 100,000 dog owners to overcome the same challenges that you have. So if this is your first time on the channel, now's a great time to hit that subscribe button.
It sure is.
But today's topic is a pretty popular one. We have so many people right now that are getting puppies.
So many people.
It's crazy,
Yes.
yeah. And the amount of people that are reaching out to us saying, I've just
We
got a
are
new
not
puppy.
getting a puppy, though.
No, well, are you sure?
I am absolutely sure.
I've been trying. I've been trying to convince her that it was a good idea for us to get a puppy. It's not going so well.
No.
But maybe you're a long-time train station viewer. I'll talk a little bit about how the train station here in our McCann Dog studio works. But one thing I really would like to know is, do you have a puppy? Right now, do you have a puppy, or are you getting a puppy? I'd really love to know, if those of you who are in the chat that are puppy owners right now, as well as your maybe upcoming puppy owners, you're planning like a month out, or maybe you're just figuring out if you want to get a puppy. That's also a pretty common thing we see from people who join us here.
I'm smiling because I see a lot of people telling us what kind of puppy they have in the chat, but I also see so many names that I recognize from our online
I know.
class.
Very cool.
Snowdrop, which is actually Mimi, which I learned the other day. Andy, Ashley, Chelsea, Teresa. I see so many people. Oh my gosh, here they all come.
Absolutely. So we have online programs.
Oh my gosh, a lot of
now.
you have puppies right now.
Yeah, very cool. We have our Puppy Essentials program, which actually tonight we're going to talk about a little bit of a discount for you guys. I think our audio is peaking a little. We have a discount for you guys here that are watching here in the train station between now and midnight tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about a coupon that you guys can join us in our online puppy training, our Puppy Essentials program. So stick around for that. But you know what? It's time, Kayl. I think it's time that we jump right into some content here.
I feel like it's been a long time since we've done a live for some reason. It's
2 weeks.
Yeah, I just feel like it's
exactly
been
2
longer
weeks,
than that.
and it has felt like a long 2 weeks. Let's talk a little bit more as we jump into it. Today's live stream: 7 things that puppy owners need to know. It's your puppy owner's resource guide. I'm Ken Steepe.
I'm Kayl McCann.
Welcome back to McCann Dogs. For those of you guys who are new puppy owners, I know it can feel challenging. I know there's like a lot going on. For those of you guys who are planning, I see this often in the comments, like, I'm a little nervous. We're getting a puppy. We haven't had a dog in so long.
How much work is it going to be?
Yeah, what on earth have I gotten myself into? And we're going to talk a lot about that. We're going to talk about some tips to help you be more successful, as well as, some things to keep in mind. We're also going to talk about a shopping list right off the bat. And we'll talk a little bit about what you're going to need.
What you need
for your puppy. But if you are a longtime train station passenger and you're just coming out to hang out with us here tonight, or maybe you've got a puppy and this is a really important live stream for you, thanks for joining us again. It's always fun to come and we hang out with you guys every 2 weeks, basically, Thursday nights at 7:30. So I'm pretty excited to have you here. But if you are a train station passenger, then you know how much goes into these live streams, how much work we put in it, but we wouldn't be able to do it without a very special person. Dan, lots of links. Dan, the moderator man, Luton, and you'll see him in the chat. He's got a little blue wrench next to his name. He's our moderator. He'll be able to help us out a little bit, making sure that you guys get the links that you need and that kind of thing. But I actually set up a satellite cam to Dan. Let's see what Dan is up to tonight. Let's see here. Oh, there he is. Oh, hanging out with Lucy.
Oh, Lucy Lou.
Very cute.
Hi, Lou.
So that's Dan, the moderator man. Last week, Dan had just dealt with some skunk. Lucy had been skunked, and we had to talk a little bit about that.
Horrible.
So it was a bit of a challenge. I'm just going to get something set up here, Kayl. I don't know if you want to preface what's going on tonight.
Yeah. Actually, Lucy, has Lucy's video been put out yet?
No.
Yeah. Lucy is the star of an upcoming video that we're putting out shortly on loose. Whoa.
It's a mouthful.
Whoa.
It is a mouthful.
Loose leash walking. So you'll have to look for that in a few weeks. I see a ton of you guys telling us about your puppies and lots of young puppies, which is really great. And a few of you said, I have a dog, but I love your channel, so I watch anyways.
Oh,
which is great.
I love to have you guys hang out
Maybe
with us.
Maybe you can be like me and just get a puppy fix by like listening to everybody talk about their puppies, looking at puppy pictures.
For sure.
So it doesn't make it that bad that we don't have a puppy.
Go ahead.
I thought you were going to say something.
I was, and I lost it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So tonight, basically, we wanted to go over some of the things that we feel is important for you to know when you bring your puppy home, or even if you've already have your puppy at home and you're a few weeks in and you're just sort of wondering, like, what should I be doing? What should I be focusing on? When we were making the list, we sort of had to pare it down a little bit to just have 7. Otherwise, we'd be here all night. But we tried to pick the things that we thought were most important. I know in our puppy online class, one of the most common things that we get asked about is, crate training, nipping, biting. So we're going to graze over that tonight. But one of the things that I was thinking about before jumping on here tonight is just, somebody asked me on the class the other day, like, do your puppies do a lot of nipping and biting? Like, do you have to deal with these things too? And the answer is like a very light yes. Our puppies that we raise and own do exactly the same problems as your puppies do. We don't magically get puppies that, are perfect when we get them home. But I think that what we figured out and what we can share with you is how to make the whole puppy process a little smoother so that, if the puppy's doing nipping and biting or, having an accident in the house, that's happening once or twice and then we've dealt with it and we've moved on, because the structure in which we're presenting the puppy is so clear that we end up avoiding a lot of problems. And that is the point of our training. It's to set you guys up so that you can knock it out of the park with the dogs and not have to get 8, 10, 12 months down the road and be like, oh, my dog's still doing this problem.
Right, for sure.
So hopefully you're going to get a few tips tonight to get you guys on the right track.
And puppy training is a process. And if you're giving the dog good information, number 1, it's way more fun. Number 2, the dog's successful more quickly. And number 3, you get to move through the training processes faster. So if you're giving your puppy good information at the beginning, it makes a humongous amount of difference. Now, this is, someone had mentioned earlier that they just love to come and hang out with us here in the train station. Then you know what's about to happen next.
Ken sang last time, guys.
I did in fact. One of my favorite parts during the show, after the show, is checking out where you guys are checking in from, where you guys are joining us here on the train station from. So I want to do the roll call. Sound off, especially those of you who are here often. I love seeing those names pop up in the chat. It's really, really cool for me. And I'm really interested where you guys are joining us from. And we'll do our little romper room thing in a moment. The other thing I wanted to mention is that tonight only, we have a link for our puppy program and for our life skills program. If you enter code TRAINSTATION when you get to our puppy program, it's mccanndogs.link/puppy essentials, mccanndogs.link/life skills. Enter the code TRAINSTATION to save $75 off of your program. So that's pretty exciting. Now, look at the chat is rocking and or rolling.
Can I ask you a really quick unrelated question?
Yep.
Does this need to be here?
Just need to
is it work? Oh, there. That's so much better. Yeah. I just can't see that.
Okay.
I can't see their
chat.
Now
we need to catch up. I see California, Duncan, BC, Austin, Texas, Dave Caldwell from Malaysia. Thanks for joining us again, Dave.
Wow, nice.
Boaz, Oakland, Belgium, Nashville, Quebec, Yorba Linda, California. That's an interesting name.
Canada.
Very bouncy sounding name. New York City. Linda, I hope you're doing well in New York City. Massachusetts, Ohio, Buffalo, New York, Arizona, Bingham, Birmingham, Blaine, Vancouver, Oakland, Montclair, Egypt, Sacramento, California, Atwood, Ontario, Washington, D.C., Olympia, Washington, Guelph, Texas.
Timmins.
You pick it up from there just for a moment.
Timmins, Ontario, Orlando, Florida, another Massachusetts, Austin, Texas, Hamilton. Oh, you are very close to us.
Close.
San Diego, Boston, Linden, Seattle, San Jose.
There's no way we can keep up.
Oh my gosh, I've lost it.
You know what else?
Vegas, California. Lots of Massachusetts tonight.
Yeah, I know. I saw our
Lots
moderator.
of California.
Our moderator, he's got a couple of tiny little helper moderators, and I know they enjoy when I toot. Now, I'm going to apologize in advance. If this is your first train station, you need to know that I toot quite often, but I want to welcome you back to the train station.
This is the only time he toots, and I don't say something rude to him.
That's a fact. Okay, let's jump into some of the content. I see you guys are coming from all over the world, which is really, really cool.
Hi, Liv. Hi, Anna.
So let's jump into some of our content. I see there's so much stuff going on here in the chat. Okay, let's talk about first things first. If you're getting a puppy, if you maybe even if you've just gotten a puppy, and you want to know like what's the best way to have everything that I'm going to need. We'll talk about some of the basic stuff that you're going to need. Some of the things that are just going to make your life so much easier. I mean, it makes a big difference.
I feel like that, like, even talking about the shopping list brings back like so many
exciting
positive association memories.
See, guys, I've been chipping away at her to get a puppy for so long.
Not that I want a puppy.
It's working.
But like, we have so much dog stuff, guys. Like, I would be embarrassed to admit to you the amount of dog stuff that we've accumulated over the years. But whenever we get a new puppy, I always get all new brand new stuff because the puppy has to have their own things, of course. So definitely some of the things that we're going to go over with our shopping list, I get very excited about getting. The collar specifically, what it looks like, what the puppy's color is going to be. I'm a little insane. What can I say?
I mean... She said it.
Don't even.
Not me.
Agree or disagree.
Okay, so let's talk about those things. Let's talk about the things that we think are really important to help you guys at home with your puppies.
Yeah, so we have a couple things listed down here. A collar. When you get a collar, obviously when they're puppies, you can just probably get a puppy collar. But one of the things that we recommend as they get older is to switch out the snap collars for a buckle. We see so many students, and we've had a lot of people who have those snap collars, although they're very convenient for sure. But they break a little bit more easily. We've also actually had a couple people when they've reached in to grab the collar, hook the leash on, the snap has caught and broken open.
We talk about this
accidentally
quite often, actually. We talk about with puppy owners, and as those dogs get bigger, you never know. Like, I can think of one very specific incident that happened not that long ago to a friend, where their dog was standing on the edge of, they jumped up onto like an edge, went over. Luckily, the dog was wearing metal buckle hardware, like had a metal clip on the collar, and it didn't break.
Yeah, so that's sort of what we recommend. A leash or a house line, and the word house line always gets people. They're thinking, what on earth is a house line? So when we have a puppy, we have several leashes. We have a leash that we train our dogs with. We have a house line, which is basically a fancy word for a leash with no handle that is old and crappy and can be sort of dragged around the house and slips and slides everywhere. And then the third thing that we have is a long line. So a long leash, like 20, 30 feet, that our puppies wear when they're outside so that they can have a little bit more freedom, but without sacrificing their safety, of course. A crate, obviously. And if you want a dog training tip, we have several crates for our puppies, or if we have the ones that have the little handle, we can kind of move it around because we like to keep the puppy's crate close to us when we're using it, whether it's when we're sleeping, when we're, hanging out on the couch or whatever, because we don't have our puppies out of the crate all day long and all night long. We have them in and out. So we really like to have either multiple crates or we have mobile crates that we can move around so the puppy can stay with us. Some type of bed for your puppy. And this is something that we train our puppies a lot when they're young to go and lie down on a bed, and we make that very, very valuable. We almost train it like a trick. One thing that we do not do, though, with some puppies is we don't put a bed in their crate, which shocks people sometimes. They think, oh, how horrible. But again, just from our experience, we find a lot of dogs are more prone to either chewing it or having accidents on it when they're young. So once their house training's done and they're not really chewing, then you can put a bed in there for sure. But just be careful about it when they're young. Sometimes it can do more damage than good. Some type of interactive toy, so a tug toy or something that you can play with your dog. And what we mean by interactive toy is that this is something that we would play with our dogs, and then when we weren't using it, we would tuck it away so our pup couldn't have access to it.
Right.
This does a couple things. Number one, it's safe because usually if you let them, chew on a stuffed animal or rope toy or things like that, they're going to destroy it, which could potentially be dangerous to them. But the other thing thing that people don't realize that it does if you save the toy is it builds crazy toy drive. So it teaches them to be more excited about the toy, because when it comes out, it's a special moment that you guys have together, and then you put it away. So it helps really build the drive. Obviously, you're going to need lots and lots of treats, because we're going to do tons of training using treats. You'll have to sort of figure out what your puppy likes best. We have all kinds of recommendations. Actually, Dan, I wonder if you could share our tuna treat recipe. We have one that we just swear by, and our students swear by as well. It's really easy to make, and the puppies love it. It's quite gentle on their tummies as well. And then last thing, obviously, is going to be their food. And whether you're doing kibble or raw or whatever you're doing, you need to have a bit of a game plan with your feeding and what you're feeding and your feeding schedule as well.
So let's jump into some of these questions. If this is your first time on the train station, what we do is we have a bit of a lesson plan for you guys. Then we'll jump into the chat, and if a question comes to mind, feel free to ask it, and I'll try to catch as many as I can. It's really difficult with how many questions are coming in, but I'll try to capture some, and then we'll take a moment to answer some of them. Now, I see here that Blue on... Oh, somebody's dropping $1.99.
Oh, look, it's Little B.
Oh, yeah, very cool. Dropping the super chat. So, Audrey, thank you very much for the super chat. Let's go into this. Audrey says, difference between class and pup videos. Big fan. Difference between class and pup videos.
Could you elaborate a little bit more for us, Audrey?
I'd be really interested to see.
What is the difference between class and pup videos?
Maybe like going to a class versus puppy videos. Maybe that's the question.
Maybe.
I think.
Elaborate a little bit more for us, and we'd be happy to answer that for you.
Thank you for the super chat.
Yeah,
very cool. We'll just have to keep an eye out for Audrey's
I'll
follow-up.
keep my eyes peeled.
What was I going to say? Blue on black. Puppy Do worried about socialization over the next little while. We'll talk a little bit about socialization.
Yeah.
It's definitely on the agenda for tonight.
Just before we go on, Barry's asking, how does the super chat work, and how can we get involved in this?
Oh, so yeah, Barry's one of our students. And
he is.
Superstar, sharing tons of great videos and working really hard with his puppy. Mm-hmm. But Barry, a super chat is at the bottom of your YouTube, where you put a comment.
Sign, I think.
Yeah, there's like a little dollar sign, and then it's donations to support the train station. So
yeah, and then if you do it, we'll absolutely answer that question.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll definitely be able to answer your question.
We try to answer as many questions as we can. But...
Yeah. So Aaron Mick says, how do you know what size collar to buy for a puppy even before you have them home? That's a great question, and probably something that a lot of puppy owners would wonder.
Yeah. What we usually do with our puppies is we buy adjustable collars that can kind of open and close. And the biggest thing that I focus on when I have a baby puppy is the width of the collar. So you want to make sure that it's wide enough that it's going to be fairly comfortable. I think that often when people buy collars, they end up buying collars that are too skinny. They're like almost like cat collars. Obviously, if you have a tiny breed, then that's not going to matter. But sometimes I see like labs and goldens with like these tiny little skinny collars, and that's actually not super comfortable for the dog, and it's not really effective for training. So the best collar that you could get would be as a thick collar, but that fits snugly around their neck. So we usually put 2 fingers between the collar and their neck to ensure that it's not too loose. It could slide over their head, and of course not too tight. And when you have a baby puppy, they are growing like a weed. So we literally check the collars every single day to ensure that they're fit properly and they're doing well.
Kim Solomon dropping a $4.99 super chat. Thank you very much for the super chat,
Thank you,
Kim. She asks, what brand of dog food do you...
Audrey's question.
I've got it actually loaded up. Kim, what brand of dog food do you recommend? Now, this is a really personal sort of basis. It has so much to do with what your dog does well on. Mm-hmm. But we don't really stick to one specific brand.
No, not really. We've fed a lot of different food over the years, and I don't really want to get into brands just because I think that's a bit of a dangerous thing. But what I will tell you is that in our experience recently, our dogs have done a lot better with a grain food versus a grain-free. I know grain-free food was quite popular to feed the dogs, but there's been some more recent studies saying that it's actually not as good for your dog. Again, this is like talking like religion, so we could be getting very dangerous territory here. But our choice for our dogs currently is to give them food that has grain, and their bellies and things like that have been doing a lot better than they did in the past. So hopefully that's helpful.
We're always really critical of how well our dogs are doing on food. It's not just like, do they like it? Because dogs like food. But we're really careful about what we feed, and we watch very specifically dogs' weight. We have competition dogs. Kayl competes. So we're very... Kayl is a kibble counter.
I am a kibble counter.
Knows exactly how much food is
proud
coming in and going
kibble
out.
counter right here. Tyler asks, it's so hard to find food with grains. Tyler, I can give you some suggestions. He's one of our online students. I can let you know what we're feeding that has grain. I'm pretty happy with it.
Okay, Audrey, great question. Here's the follow-up. She says, I was limited with characters on Super Chat. Your videos are so comprehensive. What is the difference between the puppy playlist and the newly launched class?
Oh, great question.
Really, really good question.
Yeah. So there, obviously our puppy playlist on YouTube is pretty comprehensive, and a lot of people are, get a lot of value from it. Basically our online class is a structured program that has 5 lessons actually. And it has specific exercises that you are going to follow and go through. And it's progressional. And there's a bunch of different topics that we go over, and I can get into that. But I think the biggest asset to the online classes is that you get access to professional dog trainers. Right. So we are there assisting you every step of the way. You can ask us questions. We host weekly live chats that are private for just our online students, kind of like this, I would say, but to a much smaller group, obviously. So it's a little bit more of a connection. And
for example, tomorrow is the live stream.
We're talking, doing a deep dive on crate training.
Yeah, and talking about, all the challenges that you might have, and you'll have a much more thorough opportunity to have a conversation rather than the opportunity you might have tonight.
So it's obviously the YouTube channel is great, but the program is a lot more in depth, and there's access to help all of the time.
For sure. So we had 2 super chats while we were answering that question.
Goodness.
One from Douglas Lowe. Thank you very much for the super chat, Douglas. Douglas asks, why do you not recommend a harness? And he's from Fredericksburg, Virginia. So Douglas, this is something that we often talk about. We, all of our, well, not all, but most of our dogs do wear a harness. Yeah. After they've learned how to walk on a loose leash. We know that because we focus on starting with something like a flat buckle collar, we want to be able to have control of the dog's head, give them really good information. And the best way for your dog to more quickly learn about loose leash, as well as to redirect them if you need to, is by having that a little bit more head control. And something like a collar that sits up nice and high on your dog's neck is the best way to do that, rather than being dependent on a piece of equipment like a harness that might have some sort of like mechanism or a way of stopping them from pulling. Yeah. You don't want to become dependent on something like that. You want to train your dog to learn to listen, to want to be in that position.
I've done a lot of research on harnesses because they're really popular in the dog sport world, and for every world team I've been on, they always give us like a Team Canada harness, and it's super fancy and amazing. But there's certain sometimes the way that they fit on the dog's body can actually be hard on their movement. And also the dogs can pull on it really easily. So if you have a dog that's in training and you're dealing with the dog pulling, they can really lean into it. And although it distributes the weight and maybe makes it a little bit easier on you, it's not good for teaching the walking or things like that. So we try to work it first, and then we switch to it. We switch to a harness later if we want to. Mine basically are because they look cool, not because they're actually changing the dog's behavior.
Right. Yeah. Okay, let's keep moving along. I think we had some really, really great questions, and we'll do our best to try to keep up with the chat. So the next thing that we need to talk about...
Do we miss another super chat, though?
I don't think so. And you know what? Fabiola Marine dropping the $9.99 super chat says thank you very much for the super chat. It's amazing.
Thank you.
She says, hi from New Jersey. First time watching your live. Do you guys offer virtual training? We have a 15-week-old Pomsky. We would like to house train him as soon as possible. In fact, Fabiola, tonight you do, in fact, have access to that. And Blue Star dropped a super chat. But for Fabiola tonight, if you sign up before midnight tonight, you'll get access to you can use our train station code and save $75.
Such a disco.
I know. I feel like, did you guys notice I put disco lights up too? I don't know if you noticed that. I think it's kind of being lost now. But so Fabiola, we do have virtual classes. We do have online training. And Blue Star, the $5
is there
super
a
chat.
link? Is there a link for them to go to?
Yeah, if you guys are interested, McCanndogs.link/puppy essentials will get you directly to the puppy program.
Spot the Bot just shared it.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Nice job, Spot. Blue Star says, how do I address a 7-month-old lab hound mix from growling at my 7-year-old son? My son is gentle, so that's not the issue. So this is really, really important when we talk about introducing your dog to the kids and setting them up in situations like this. Now, I don't know, Kayl, where you want to take this answer specifically, but I know that we are going to talk a lot about management.
Yeah, I think I would love to give you a direct answer, but I'm apprehensive too without getting a little bit more knowledge when it comes to dogs growling or showing those types of behaviors. There isn't really one answer. You kind of have to know a little bit more about the situation. What I can tell you for now, though, is that if this type of thing is happening, the most important thing that you need to do right now is A, supervise, and B, try not to let the dog and and your son be around each other too much, so that the dog's not feeling as if they need to do the growling for whatever reason. Dogs will growl at people and other dogs and children for many reasons. So right now, prevention is going to be your key. And what I would recommend that you do is, contact us, maybe for a lesson or some information, or a local, behaviorist to get a little bit more into the nitty gritty of your question. I would hate to steer you in the wrong direction. So hopefully that's helpful for now.
Chelsea Lewis, one of our online students, says, I dig the disco. It makes me want to come hang out and have a mimosa.
Chelsea, what's with us and mimosas,
I know.
girl?
Okay, so we need to talk about the next things that you're going to be you'll need to be thinking about for your puppy training, and that's collar and the house line. Now, we talked a little bit about why you'd want it, but we really need to think about the application of these things. Number one, a lot of people say, I put a collar on my puppy and he hates it. But I want you to think of it like a new pair of glasses. When you first put we have some adorable videos of our youngest dog, Beeline, when she was a little tiny puppy, and we put a collar on her new collar on her, and she's constantly scratching at it and fussing with it and trying to get it. Very cute. But it's like wearing a new pair of glasses. It's something new. They're just sort of getting used to it. But it's really, really important that your puppy has a collar so that you're able to take control if you need to. And it's going to be something that they wear. So getting them used to it early is a really, really good step in the right direction. The other thing is a house line, and it is so important for you to have good timing when you're puppy training. That's why a house line is the perfect way to
I'm going
deal
to
with
go
that.
get a house line so we can show them.
Okay, well, we can just grab a leash.
I can get a leash, but we actually have a house line on the island upstairs.
Sure, yeah. One of the important things that you want to focus on when you're doing all of your puppy training is supervision, right? We talk about that quite often, and if you've been here in the train station before, you'll know all of the reasons that supervision is so important. But even with good supervision, if you have poor control, or it's a challenge for you to be able to do something like stop your puppy from eating something, or stop them from running away, or whatever the thing is, you really want to have better control. That's where a line is going to come in handy. Allowing your puppy to drag like a 6-foot line can be really, really helpful.
This is just sort of like it's sort of a nylon-y material. And then I don't know if you can see that, but we've just cut the end of the handle off. We've cut the handle off the end, would be better English. And that's just
I believe it's gooder English.
Gooder English. And this is just so it doesn't get caught on so many things. And I definitely don't want to pull the wool over your eyes with this one, but the long lines and the leashes, they're a pain in the butt sometimes. They get caught on the chair legs. They get, wrapped around trees. They get caught on the dog's legs sometimes. They can be a pain in the butt. But for the amount of times that they save you and they allow you to get the puppy out from underneath the bed when they have socks in their mouth, or from jumping on the couch and attacking your house coat, or whatever it is, the fact that you have something that you can grab that's not the physical puppy is unbelievably helpful in your leadership and your redirection and your ability to get rid of some of those on-water behaviors. So we recommend that your puppy wears this. I'm sure Ken already said this, but 100% of the time, every moment, when our puppies go in the crate, we clip the long line.
Come out of their crate.
Yeah, when we go in the crate, we clip it to their thing. When they come out, we hook it to their collar, and then that's what they boot around the house with. Okay,
we missed the super chat. You were right. Ronan McHugh, I apologize. We missed your super chat.
I thought so.
Yeah, you were right. It was a flurry of activity there. So I apologize, Ronan. Ronan says, my puppy doesn't want to move when I put on a leash.
Yeah. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes it can be that they're like a little bit like taken back by it. You might want to try something that's lightweight to begin with. So you could maybe, another one. You could start with something that's lightweight and just sort of let them drag it around. Initially, it's pretty surprising because the puppies aren't used to it, but it very quickly becomes just sort of a fourth appendage there at the end to just get comfortable with it. I don't know why I said that. So keep at it. Try something a little bit lighter, or when you first put it on, get some treats out and encourage the dog to follow some food or maybe do some tricks. Do something that gets the dog off of the fact that they're wearing a line, change their mind a little bit, and that should help get the dog comfortable.
Brett, Kristen and Brett, you guys are amazing. Thank you very much for the super chats. We do appreciate them. We're going to jump into those, and I'm going to go to Kristen's first. And this is...
I think Brett might be a student, too. I recognize that name. Or maybe he's been on here before.
He's last live stream, train station.
Oh, okay.
He was in here.
I knew I
Kristen
recognized
says, best way to correct biting and nipping when not in the middle of training. Like right now, she's trying to nip at my feet at the couch despite a Kong with treats in it.
Well, do you have a house line on? Do you have a line attached?
Yep.
And if that's the case, then you need to take the line and you need to prevent the puppy. So take the line and pull the puppy off of you and maybe get the puppy to sit, give the puppy another job to do. And then don't just go back to what you're doing. Encourage the puppy to go and lie down with a bone, right. Or if you find that you're wanting to focus on this and you don't want to pay attention to the puppy, just go pop them in their crate for a moment. Do it pleasantly, of course, address the biting and then happily put them in their crate. But what a lot of people do is they correct and then they just sort of leave it alone and the dog goes back at it again. And it's like this vicious cycle. So you need to have the last say. Also, when you're on the couch and the puppy can sort of jump up, you're sort of putting yourself in a more... You're becoming an easy target, basically. So stand up even when you need to address the puppy. Stand up and take the leash and pull the puppy off so that you look a little bit more like you have some authority.
For sure. Yeah, Kristen, I do know that you're a student. I don't. Brett isn't a student, though. Okay. I'm going to jump to Brett's question. Brett says, our mini Aussie Onyx started listening much better when we got more consistent with the house line. The last 2 weeks have been amazing. And that's the kind of thing, Brett, I love the fact that you're following through. You're really following up on, taking some of the advice and things that we share here on the YouTube channel, especially here in the live streams. Another super chat. You guys are amazing tonight. I want to jump to talking a little bit more about the house line. There's a couple of people that said my puppy just chews on it like crazy. They'll eat the house line. Kelsey, I want to jump to Kelsey's question really quickly. Go ahead.
I think that music plays when that's going on. I doubt they can hear what we're saying.
It should be good.
Okay.
Kelsey says, what recommendations do you have for introducing an older, grumpy 8-pound dog to a puppy? Actually, we have a very specific, we're going to talk about that tonight. We'll jump into that, talking about socialization, introducing your puppy in your household. So just hold tight for us, Kelsey, because that's going to be an important thing. We also have a video that goes to great lengths and talks a little bit about that. But I see Maxie has dropped a super chat as well. Have you ever heard of a Great Dane and a Caucasian Shepherd cross? I have applied for one, but there's no information anywhere.
No, I have not heard of that.
I have not heard of that. No, that's a pretty interesting cross, though.
Yeah, no, I have not heard of that, but there's a lot of interesting crosses out there, that's for sure.
Yeah, so talking about the collar and line, for those of you who have a puppy who might be, Dana was one of the people that mentioned this, my dog chews on the house line all the time, and Linda said, I used a house line until she chewed it off one day. I imagine she means wasn't very helpful. So this is a critical part of using that house line, guys. Now, anytime your puppy's coming out of their crate, you're putting that house line on and you are supervising them. You are focused on what your puppy is up to. They can't sneak away and start to chew on that line. And if they do, you're going to mark that, hey, oops, whatever the thing is.
Leave that.
Mark that moment.
Use your voice.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because when people say, oh, they chewed it off, well, how were they chewing it long enough to chew it off without you seeing? So that's a supervision issue. That's not really a puppy issue. So you really need to be watching the puppies. The moment my puppies start to chew on the line, I use my voice to to scold them a little bit, leave it, or hey, or something that sort of says I don't like that, and then I'll walk over and I'll remove the line from them. And if they continue to do it, then I'll address that, and I'll do a little bit of discipline with them, and then I'll redirect them to something that they should do. I'll show them their bone or something else. You just have to keep at it. Consistency. You know, if your timing's good and you're clear with what your expectations are, you only have to tell the puppy a couple times, and it will be over and done with.
I can't help but smile.
Can't keep up right now.
Yeah, because like the train station is rocking and rolling, and the lights are flashing. It's really cool. And thank you guys for your super chats. We certainly appreciate them. Now, Paul F. asks, do you crate your dogs when you're not training or walking? Paul, it depends. If I can't, so basically the division is, or the threshold for time for the crate is, can I supervise the puppy? Can I be 100% eyes on that puppy? It's also a great opportunity to bring your puppy out of the crate and they directly interact with you. Then you can go out and do some training, tire them out a little bit, whether it's walking or whatever the exercise is. And then you can, they finish doing their thing outside. Then they can go back into their crate because they're going to need somewhere to rest. A crate is such a valuable tool because number one, it's your dog's own space. It gives them an opportunity to be away from the rest of the family. And maybe if you have another dog, it gives them some separation from that. But it's also like a safe, comfortable place that only good things happen. That it's like they really find or feel it's such a safe, comfortable place, and that crate can go around with you as you travel, as you move around the house. Really, really beneficial. But the best part is that way your puppy only gets good information. Remember, puppies are learning all the time, whether you're there to train them or not. They're figuring things out. They're exploring the world. But it's crucial that they're getting good information because they'll just do whatever's rewarding. Your puppy's just going to do whatever feels good. Yeah. So you want to make sure that feels good comes from you rather than chewing your shoes to bits and pieces. Teresa, one sec. Teresa dropping the $9.99 super chat. Thank you, Teresa, for the super sticker. Thank you. We do appreciate it. It's a very cool super sticker.
I think what's really important to know is our focus is really directed on puppies or young dog training right now. But remember, the house line, the crate, all of these things are what we deem as tools. They're things that we use to help train the dog. But once these things are accomplished, you might not need to use a crate anymore unless you want to. You don't need to have a line or leash. Our dogs go outside with no line or leash on whatsoever. Right. They listen to our voices. Yeah. We have dogs that never go in crates anymore. We have some dogs that go in crates at nighttime because they're irritating to sleep with. We have dogs that, so we just move it around all of the time. But your goal is to wean off of these things. Right now, these are training tools to make sure that what they learn first, they learn properly. So you don't have to go back and fix things and fill holes later on.
Danny dropping the $5 super chat. Thank you very much. And thanks for joining us here in the train station. Wow. It's like a dance party in here. We do appreciate it, Danny. Thank you very much.
I wonder if Danny's a student
She is.
too.
Yeah, she is.
Yes.
Yep, she is.
I'm recognizing all these things.
I wanted to say thank you to Mary as well, dropping the $2 super sticker. Very cool, and thank you very much for doing that. Albert has a question. Let's go to Albert's question. Dropping the seats. Super chat. Lighten up the train station.
We can't even keep up with your questions.
Got to catch up with Albert's question. Albert asks, what age do you recommend getting a puppy neutered, and what can we expect when going home? So this is another point of contentious point.
There's lots of information out there about when to get puppies spayed and neutered and when not to. All we can do is share with you what we do. Yeah. It's not that it's right or wrong. It's just this is what we prefer. I usually wait until my dogs are, minimum past a year to do any spaying or neutering. If it's a female, I usually let them go through their first heat first, and then we'll do a spay. And if it's a male, we'll let them go a little bit longer. I personally am involved in very high-level dog sports, specifically agility training. And so we have a specific thing that we follow because we're looking for, certain type of body form and things like that. So I wait quite a bit before I do any spaying, neutering. We do recommend that you do that. So if you do have a dog for just being a pet and you don't intend to show it or breed it, get them spayed or neutered. There's been so many great proof out there that it's a lot healthier for them in the long run. But I would wait a little bit. And what can we expect when going home? That is a very large question.
Yeah.
But I think that, going over the things that we're talking about tonight, maybe will give you a bit more direction.
Yeah, for sure. I think going home after the spay or neuter.
Oh, is that related to that? Okay. Yeah. What you can expect is that you going to have a crazy dog that you're supposed to keep calm for a week, and that it's going to be really challenging to do that.
You have a lot of dog on your hands.
Because a lot of dogs are like, let me go, let me do things. Yeah. So it can be often to keep them calm. But honestly, the vets are so good at doing it these days that the recovery is super fast for both male and female, male even faster than female. So yeah, it's not a big deal at all.
So I saw a few questions coming in to the chat talking about puppy potty training and house breaking. And the next thing we want to talk about for those of you who are, working through some of these issues is really using your crate effectively, like really understanding how quickly. We talked earlier about a crate and all the reasons that you'd want to do it in terms of behavior and management. Crate's also a great way to use to manage your dog's area and then take them outside. So if you can't supervise them, they go into their crate. If they're having accidents in their crate, remove the bedding. People are sometimes like, oh no, my puppy is so, he'd hate it in there if it was just a plastic bottom. But if the puppy's having accidents, what they'll often do is they'll piddle on the blanket or whatever mat or whatever's in their bed, and then they'll squish it into the corner, and then they'll continue having a snooze. So keep that in mind as you are figuring. See how exciting. This is very cool.
So nice.
This is Luria from Live Streaming Pros. They are a big part of how we got our show looking so good.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
That's
you
very
very
kind.
much. It's very, very cool. Thank you, Luria. Very cool.
I think it says David.
And David. Oh, sorry, it is David.
David.
Yeah, Luria. I meant Luria and David. Yeah, thank you, David. We do appreciate that. So
we have a lot of really fabulous videos on our YouTube channel specifically about crate training, about dealing with barking in the crate training, about dealing with teaching them to love their crate, all kinds of stuff like that. I'm sure Dan will be dropping links about that. So if you do have questions about that, we have really great videos on those things.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about how, if you're looking for information, how house training might work for your puppy. Let's maybe go through like a day with a puppy and how our house training might work for these guys.
Yeah, well, when we have a puppy, our goal is to avoid having accidents in the house by how we sort of schedule their day. So what we know about puppies is there's certain times of the day that, and I don't mean specific hours, I mean moments in the day that your puppy's more prone to have to go to the washroom. So if you can predict those things and get them outside instead, you're going to find that you're not going to have as many accidents. So, for example, when they get up in the morning, they're usually going to be bursting at the seams. Oh, that's very sweet. Thank you.
Sad to share that one.
So it makes me very uncomfortable. But it's very kind. In the morning, they'll be bursting at the seams, and that's usually a time when they're going to have to go to the washroom. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie.
We will get to your question in just a moment.
For sure. Got to get through this one.
So in the moment they'll have to go, morning they'll have to go to the washroom. So that's definitely when I'll take them out. If they've had a big drink, once they've eaten, those are times they have to go out. Two that a lot of people don't know about is if they've had a nap and they wake up from their nap, usually moments after that, they'll need to go to the washroom. So if your puppy goes for a nap, when they start to wake up, get them outside right away. That's a common time that they'll have accidents. And then another one that's a bit sneaky is if your dog's had a lot of activity. And that's also a great tip to get your dog to go to the bathroom. If your dog's not gone to the bathroom and you need them to, exercise them a little bit, do a little bit more, so that somebody's calling me on my Canadianism. What is the washroom exactly?
Oh yeah, I forgot.
I don't know why Canadians say that. It's so weird. That. Yeah, bathroom, potty. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. I will try to not say washroom. It's so ingrained in my brain.
Just get that.
Sorry,
get that out of your head. Eh?
I can't say potty. I just think it's so weird.
Monica dropping another super chat.
Anyways, I will wrap this up. When you play with your puppy, you need to expect that they need to go outside afterwards. So make sure that you're on top of that. You can have a schedule so you could take them out on a regular basis, or you just need to get to know their body language. We try to very quickly, when we have a puppy, start to teach our puppy how to ask to go outside, so that we're not always responsible for watching to see if they'll go. So they'll show us signs. And then my absolute favorite thing about house training is that we teach our puppies to go to the bathroom on a command. And this is like a life-saving thing. So if I walk out and I say, hurry up, I literally have all 6 of our dogs peeing within seconds of me saying it. And when it's raining and cold, or if I'm late, dogs going to the bathroom quickly is like the most amazing thing.
Sure. I want to welcome, we have some new members to our Puppy Essentials program. One of our director of online training just sent me. I want to welcome Rachel. I want to welcome Christine and Brett, who we just saw drop a super chat to the new to our Puppy Essentials course.
Yay.
Welcome to you guys for sure. Now, let's get into, let's see who had the super chat. So Monica.
Jamie first.
Oh, sure. Yeah, Jamie. So I just need to find it in the chat here.
I can read it there.
I've got it. Okay, go ahead. Jamie asks, what's the best way to involve young children, 5 and 7, in the puppy training process? First time dog for the kids.
Yeah.
So that's pretty exciting process. I think everyone sort of envisions this, having a couple kids in a dog in their household, and they want to figure out, how do I integrate the two?
And then suddenly they realize that it's absolutely
crazy. This is a challenge.
Crazy.
Yes, this is a challenge. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so it's great to get the kids involved with the puppy. It's it's important that they learn to have a good relationship. One thing that we'll recommend that you do is get the kids involved in some of the training where the puppy is going to be doing more controlled things. So they could help with feeding the dog. They could help with teaching sits and downs and tricks. But when you're doing all of these things, it's really helpful if you're right there sort of guiding the whole process. Even have a leash in your hand, have some treats yourself, have your children have some treats too, so that you can sort of assist them with the puppy. Puppies have a terrible habit of sort of thinking of kids as being like just another litter mate or a buddy, and so they tend to be a little bit more naughty with kids than with adults, because kids are loud and they squeak and they run and they are just a lot of fun to chase. So if you can work on calmer things, that can really be helpful. And then supervision. I know we've said that 100 times on this chat, but you need to make sure you're really watching, so your puppy's not really learning that when you're not around, or when the puppies or when the kids are, I know it's hard to keep them straight, when the kids are maybe having an exciting run around moment, that the puppy's not nipping and biting and chasing them. So it's really going to be a lot of management on your part, but the more you can get them involved in some of the obedience skills, the more your puppy will start to view them as being little people they have to listen to a little bit more.
You also want to make sure the kids aren't running around nipping and biting the puppy.
Yeah, I mean, that would also be very appreciated.
You'd be surprised some of the stories that we've heard.
Yeah.
A couple of really good questions in here, other super chats. I saw Monica
Kate Lewis just said, hi guys, we just joined Puppy Essentials baking tuna treats as we speak.
Oh yeah, welcome Kate. Yeah, I hate those things because I hate tuna and they stink, but people seem to love them. The dogs are over the moon excited about them. Monica says, do you have any plastic crate recommendations? I mean, not a specific brand.
I mean, I don't know. Are we allowed to say brands? Because I have 2 that I absolutely love. I don't know if I should say them.
I don't think you should.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you can.
Now, I've already set it up, so now I kind of have to.
Yep.
The 2 plastic crates that we really love are... and I have different ideas for like if you're going to fly a dog, but for just like in the house, I really like the brand Ferrari. And I like Very Kennel. That's VARI. Those are 2 brands that we've used a lot, and they last for years and years and years and years. They're a little bit more expensive, but it's kind of one of those things that when you buy one, it lasts forever and you can just keep using it dog after dog after dog. So I quite prefer those.
Yeah, actually, I'm just going to touch on this maybe now. No, I'll leave it alone. There's a question in here that I'm going to grab for later. Where were we? House training, I think. So we've talked about today, so far we've talked about a shopping list, color and line, a crate, house training. Now we need to talk about something that we've seen a lot of conversation about here in the chat, and that's nipping. Puppies, are constantly nipping and biting. They're exploring the world with their mouths. What do we do about it? How do we set those puppies up to be more successful?
Douglas must be on often to know that.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yes, nipping and biting for sure is a common thing that we get asked about all of the time. It's something that almost every single puppy does when they first come home. They're really they're used to using their mouths with their brothers and sisters when they're in the litter. And one of the things that they will do is they will see if they can use their mouth to either play with you or sometimes to control you as well. Puppies learn really quickly that if you're doing something and they go to nip and bite, most normal human reaction is to go, and do this. And the puppy goes, aha, I gotcha. I know exactly how to control you. So it's really common, but it's it's definitely something that needs to be addressed right off the bat. Yeah. And as quickly and effectively as you possibly can, because you don't want nipping and biting to linger. If you're having issues with nipping and biting for months, something in your information to the dog is clearly being missed. Consistency, follow through are all going to be really important. We have a couple disciplinary suggestions that we teach in our online puppy program to deal with puppy nipping. Not really something that I want to get into on the live right now, because it's comprehensive to explain. But those of you who are in our class, we would have taught you the passive restraint and a couple other things to deal with nipping and biting. But the goal is that you're structuring your dog's life and you're training them and working them in a way that your dog's not doing a lot of nipping and biting. In fact, last week we posted a YouTube video on things that you can do that prevent biting. So how can you set your puppy up so that you're not even getting biting in the first place? Because there's all kinds of things that people do that actually encourage the dog to nip more, and they don't even know that they're doing them. Things like, holding the puppy up by your face, or getting down and wrestling with them on the ground, or letting them get up on the couch, or, there's so many things that people do just naturally with a puppy, and they wonder why their puppies are nipping and biting them. So those are just some things that we want you to think about.
Quick question that we missed. We saw a couple super chats. Thank you guys very much for the super chats. We'll be able to answer your questions. Rowan asked, my 10-week-old pup doesn't seem interested in any type of treat we try and use for training. He doesn't respond much to luring and just lays down.
If you have a puppy that's not really interested in treats, often we'll ask you a little bit more about their food and whether they're interested in eating their food. Most commonly, we find puppies that are like this are getting free fed and not meal fed. So free feeding is when people just put the food down and just kind of like how you would feed a cat. You don't feed dogs like that, though. You got to give them meals.
That's how I wish Kayl would feed a Ken.
Yeah.
Just leave food out all the time.
It's not happening.
That'd make me happy.
So mealtime should be something that you have, breakfast. And for puppies, we usually do breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So putting it down for, a few minutes, and then whatever they don't eat, pick up, and then put back down at the next mealtime to get them on a more strict schedule. And then if he is interested in the feeding time, that would be a good time to actually do your training when the puppy's already anticipating food, or maybe even use the food as your training treats rather than using treats. And also to think about what kind of treats that you're using. I think a lot of people don't use high enough value food when they're teaching. So there's all kinds of things you can do. The tuna treats that we've suggested are great. Even chicken wieners, block cheese, leftover chicken, cut up a hamburger for your dog. All of these things are very high value and usually get the dog a little bit more interested.
So going to our next super chat, it is from M. Barda. Do you use a house line in the backyard to potty, or switch to a leash? And do you give the pups I love this question. Really good question, because it's something that people often ask. Or switch to a leash. Do you give the pups some free time to run loose? Thanks. So a couple of things. I would definitely switch to an outside leash.
Long line, like 20 feet.
Yeah, a longer line if you're going out to teach your puppy to go potty in the backyard. I would never let the puppy run loose without some sort of line, some way to stop them from getting into trouble, to if they're like, maybe they find something they're picking up, and I don't want them to have that. They're so young, they don't have an out command. They might not have a great response to name. I need to have some sort of control to make sure that I avoid disaster, whatever. Avoid disaster. So you make sure nothing bad happens to your adorable little puppy. You need to have that little bit of control. So that free run time is going to be earned. When your dog is giving you reliable responses to name, a great response to come command, then they can have an opportunity to be completely unrestrained, freed from their leash or line. But at this point for your puppy, just let them drag the line. Maybe you need to get a nice light line for those situations that's long enough. Like, we talk a lot about our house lines being as light as we can get them. In fact, our in-class students will get like this. It's like a little nylon white line. It's almost like a shoelace, a little bit thicker.
I think I personally, when I have puppies, I don't ever let them have free time to run around. Even if they're wearing a line, I don't just stand in the backyard and let them run around because that basically allows them to get a reward without including me. So I would run around with the puppy. I would let them chase me.
Yeah,
I would get
point.
a toy out and play some tug. So
Yeah.
when my dog's exuding all of that fun energy, we're doing those things together, which makes me more valuable to them. I don't just stand there on my phone and let the dog run around and sort of seek enjoyment without including me. Everything that my dog does that they find rewarding, I try to figure out how I can apply myself to that so that we're doing those things together.
Good question. From Kevin Simok. Hey guys, we took a Puppy Essentials class with Callie. Maybe you mean Puppy Head Start? She's 5 months now, but she gets ballistic, excited when meeting new people. She flips on her back and pees every time. I think I lost it. I couldn't.
Up.
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 Pees,
There you go.
Pees everywhere. How do we curb that? We've had this challenge with
we've had our own
older
dogs that do this. It's submissive elimination, and a lot of times the dogs don't even know that they're doing it. Number one is do not let her flip on her back. That's a very submissive position to be in, and they're far more likely to pee when they're like that. So encourage her to sit. Also, try not to allow people to bend over top of her or talk in that high, squeaky puppy voice that everybody does.
Puppies are like,
"Oh, you're so cute.
Oh, I am so cute."
Yeah.
And then it happens.
And the puppy's like, "Oh my God, I need to pee." So, they can just talk on a calm, quiet voice. Don't pet the puppy if she flips on her back or if she's going crazy. Get her more calmer minded. And then keep a leash on her. So when she goes to flip on her back, just very gently encourage her up into a sit and only let people pet her when she's in that position. That will teach her to have a little bit more self-confidence and be able to control herself a little bit more. But it's pretty common, but you can get rid of it pretty quickly with some of those tips.
Patrick asks, our 10-week-old cockapoo is well behaved and likes his crate, but whines loudly whenever both of us are out of sight. What's the best way to reinforce better behavior? Really, really good question. Now, we talked a little bit, there's a couple things that you can do to mark the moment that you don't want the puppy to make that sort of fussing or that noise in the crate. We talked about using a long line or attaching a couple of leashes together. The other things I want you to really think about is, what are you doing every time that you put that puppy in the kennel or crate and then go to another area? I would want to precede that with maybe putting them in there with something they really like. Maybe your puppy can go in there with a chew or something, that's desirable. Number two, are you always putting the dog in that crate, in that situation, and then leaving then just leaving? What you need to start practicing is when you're in that room, puppy can go in their kennel, and then you close the door and you do stuff in the room, and then you let the puppy out, and you sort of break it down a little bit so that your puppy, it's not like every time they go in that kennel that you're going to go into the living room. I forget what he said, where a puppy goes. So you don't want the puppy to think that, they're putting me in the kennel so that they can go sit and I'll be able to listen to them. Here's my opportunity to whine. You need to sort of break that. You need to break that cycle for them. So think about, what can I do to precede that behavior so that my puppy is more happy and enjoys chewing on something or whatever in their kennel. How can I break it down? Like do shorter sessions of them being quiet in their crate. And that's going to get you started on the right path to eliminate that behavior entirely.
Yeah, I just have one more thing.
Yeah.
Often what people do is when if they're in the other room and the puppy whines, they often walk back in the room to say like quiet or whatever, and just the view of you is a reward. So make sure if you're getting whining that you're not going back in and letting the puppy see you. You need to wait till the puppy's quiet for just a few moments and then go back into the room and say, good, quiet, good puppy. And just, talk to them. Don't make a big fuss out of them, but be careful about when you're showing yourself, because if it is a bit of separation anxiety, the puppy will learn that, when they cry and you walk back in the room to say like, hey, the puppy says, yeah, you came back. Whining brings you back to me.
Oh,
so
joy.
just watch your timing and make sure that you aren't inadvertently making your problem worse by the timing in which you're giving information.
I want to welcome Allie Gardner to the Puppy Essentials program. I see
Hey.
Shannon just sent me a message that Allie's joined us, so welcome to Puppy Essentials. And tomorrow you guys are going to have a live stream conversation with instructor Steepe and Kayl about crate training, diving deep into crate training. So last week was nipping and biting, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
And this week is going to be about crate training. So you look forward to that.
Yeah, and then we're also doing a live stream tomorrow in our life skills program, which is for dogs that are older than 6 months. And we're going to be talking about timing, which is literally what I just talked about a second ago, and the use of commands and how important those are in your training.
Let's talk about, actually, I'm going to jump into Elaine's question really quickly. She said, when the puppy starts growing, do you go to a bigger crate? Actually what we'll do.
There's a couple things you can do.
Yeah, what we'll do often is get a crate that's appropriate for the full size dog, whatever the dog breed is, whatever you expect them to end up to be. And then you can actually like build bulk. A lot of crates, a lot of crates you can put a separation or a partition in it for when the puppy's a little bit smaller, and then remove the partition or move the bulk out from there. I actually have a video that talks a little bit about that on the channel. Rowan, thank you for the $1.99 super chat. Rowan asks, how do we address demanding barking from the puppy? Very common question, something that we hear a lot. And I think it's a little bit dependent on what's the situation where the puppy is demand barking. But what sort of, we have our dogs just off camera here. Let's talk a little bit about a puppy that might demand bark when someone's sitting at a chair or something like that.
Well, first of all, you don't want to do whatever they're demanding. So, if they're demanding attention, and, be careful that you're not petting them or inadvertently rewarding them. And the best thing to do when they do that is to use your voice to pinpoint that you don't like it with a little ah or hey or quiet enough, something that says, you know what, rude, not cool, and then redirect your puppy to do something else. I might ask my puppy to do a behavior. I might have them lie down, or I might just move them away, or just switch up the situation. And then once the puppy was being a bit more attentive and listening, then I would give the dog, affection or things like that. If the puppy was doing it a lot, I would just happily go put them in their crate for a couple minutes. Again, we never, ever use the crate as a form of punishment. We just use it as an opportunity to break the cycle, and then get the puppy back out. But you want to be careful that you're not, throwing the ball or petting the dog or doing all those types of things when the puppy's saying, you need to pay attention to me now.
Esparta Mac, I don't get a puppy until June. Should I wait to start Puppy Essentials, or can I start now? Number one.
Start now.
Well, number one, I love the fact that you're thinking like you're so far ahead of the game and like invested in, what I want all the information I can before the puppy gets home. And it's going to help set your puppy up to be successful.
Yeah.
So our puppy program is 3 months, and you can continue on with, I think we have might have a membership program.
Yeah, we do. Not for Puppy Essentials.
For Puppy Essentials?
No, we don't.
We can reach out to the Director of Online Training, Instructor Shannon, and she'll be able to sort you out and figure out what would be the best time for you to get going on this program. But the Puppy Essentials program can start you very early in your training, and it'll definitely give you some information that you'll want to have before your puppy comes home to prepare you, kind of like this conversation a little bit, but we can answer some of your questions more specifically. Okay, training. You need to be mindful of training. That's the number 5 thing or 6th thing on our list. You can start puppy training the day your puppy comes home, and maybe not in the way that you think. Let's talk about when we first bring a puppy home, what sort of things we're doing with them in the first couple of days.
Yeah, absolutely. The moment we bring puppies home, we're already starting to engage them in some training and some interaction, so that we're just developing their brains and teaching them to problem solve. And this also builds a lot of relationship with you and your dog as well. And when your dog sees you as someone that they should listen to, they're less likely to bark at you. They're less likely to bite you. So training is super important when you bring them home. But the type of training that you do needs to be really, really easy, so that you're setting your dog up to be successful. Our dogs are always quite well trained. They listen well. But when we have a puppy, we always know that they don't come home knowing their name or knowing sit or any of those things. So we are very conscious that we're not giving them multiple commands and just expecting them to know things. We start at the very beginning. So we have our treats out. We're showing the puppy what we want to do with some luring. We might teach them sit, down, their name, what the word yes means, to look at us. We do some basic tricks. There's all kinds of things that we do, but it's very, very easy for the puppy. So literally food would be right in front of the dog's nose. I might even let him lick and bite at it a little bit, and I would just let the puppy follow it around and just keep the puppy engaged. What I'm not going to do is stand there and go, sit. Now, why don't you know this? You have to train your puppy how to learn and how to respond to you. So we do a ton of that when they're babies.
And no matter what we're doing with dogs, whether it's puppies or, like adolescent dogs or older dogs that are new to you and with your training, it's all about motivation. We want the dog to want to listen, to want to come when called, to want to sit, all of those things. And with those brand new puppies, when they're at home, we're setting them up to know that we are the bringer of good things, and we're really focusing on motivation the whole way through their training. So when you have a teeny tiny little puppy that's brand new to this world, certainly brand new to your home, you really want to make them feel like they can always be successful. And that's exactly what you're going to do. You're going to set them up to be successful, guiding them around, teaching them to follow food, teaching them how to learn, essentially. That's really a big part of this. Something I think that's very important that I needed to mention. Chelsea Lewis, Ken, you have tooted exactly one time. I'm feeling like we're getting gypped here. Welcome back to this train station, everybody. I haven't had too many opportunities.
You keep tooting when people give super chats.
I know. I feel guilty that I'd be tooting over you. And that's the weirdest thing I've ever said to Kayl, without question. Talking more about training, we talked about like confidence building and exposing them to different training scenarios. So I might train in the kitchen, and then the puppy goes away for a bit, and then maybe I'll train in the living room. But this also speaks a little bit to socialization. That's the number 7 thing on our list for today. Socialization is a crucial part of bringing that puppy up and really teaching them that I love, I think it was Lauren, instructor Lauren, that had mentioned something about, rather than socialization, call it experiences or experience. Yeah. And it's a really good way for you to think about your puppy training at home, rather than thinking about socialization and your puppy meeting your other dogs or meeting another dog or going to play with another puppy. That's not socialization. Socialization is all about building experience and confidence for your puppy so that they can function in the real world. So let's talk a little bit about some of the socialization tactics that we want you guys to think about at home. I'm going to be completely honest. Right now is maybe the best time to be training your dog, especially be training your puppy, because people now have this sense that they need to they do have to stay distant from one another. And the worst thing, the amount of like dogs that we've gotten into our school who've said, they've said, oh, my dog used to love dogs. And then someone came up and their dog came up to them and they started barking. And now every time we pass a dog, they bark. Yeah. Go ahead.
There's 2 things that we see happen when people get puppies. They're so obsessed with their puppies, meeting other puppies and playing and those types of things that what Ken just said happens. They have bad experiences and now they're a little apprehensive about other dogs or situations. Or B, the puppies don't even know their owners are alive because they're so focused on everybody else that they could really give 2 toots instead of hoots. You see what I did there?
Well done, Kayl.
About their person. When we get a puppy home, we actually isolate our puppy from our other dogs. That's how much one-on-one time that we do, so that we're building that valuable relationship. And I'm doing all kinds of things with my puppy. I'm training in different locations. I'm out on the I'm out in the end of the driveway. I'm doing this. Somebody walks past the street on the sidewalk and they're riding a bike. I'm rewarding my puppy, working some attention. Somebody walks by with a big hat on, whatever it might be. Of course, when it's not COVID, I might let the puppy go greet that person to say hello. But right now, I would just let my puppy see and hear and do these types of things where I'm just being able to reward. We don't walk our puppies a lot when they're babies, again, because we want to make sure we have a bit more of a relationship, maybe have a bit of training with them to understand not to pull on the leash before we're doing these big walks. But we're constantly doing things with them. But we're just doing different things than I think most people do. But again, this is all stuff that we cover, here, obviously, but we get really much more in depth in all of this stuff in our online puppy class. And then what you're supposed to be doing all week is more structured. We have a 4-week program that you follow step by step. So it's a little bit easier to kind of wrap your head around what you should be doing with the puppy, because it's a lot when we spew it all at you randomly like this.
Yeah, this question from Dogman3161. Are puppies those that are less than a year old, or how is that determined? It's funny because people struggle with, is my puppy a dog now, or is it a puppy? So specifically for our training, or specifically for our online courses, puppies will be in a program if they're less than 6 months old. If they're older than 6 months old, they'll definitely be in our life skills program. But in our in-class situation, anything a dog that's over 16 weeks is just about ready for adult dog stuff. They can start to learn things like the stay and walking on a loose leash, and teaching like a reliable recall. Reliable come command,
when they're called,
which is something that people really, really, want to take advantage of. One thing I find people really struggle with is we have so many puppy videos on the channel tons and tons. And people will say, it's great that you have all these videos, but, I have a 1-year-old dog that was rehomed or something like that, and he's never had any training. Where do I start? I want you to think about, let's think about kids, or just learning in general. So I don't know what you do for a living, but if you had never taken a math class and tomorrow you were going to work, or maybe this isn't a great example because not a lot of people aren't going to work, but tomorrow you were asked to do some algebra, it would be really, really complicated. You'd need to learn the foundations of math, addition, subtraction, etc., to really start to be able to put those pieces of the puzzle together. So when you're teaching your dog, regardless of the age is so much less important than the information, the understanding. Is your dog listening reliably? I often see people have questions on the channel about they're walking on a leash and they said they can't even get their dog to pay attention to them for a moment. That's where you need to start. And we talk a lot about those kinds of things in our programs, really getting some focus from your dog and all of the different ways that you can do that. That's where it needs to begin. Your problem isn't walking on a loose leash. Your problem is that your dog is much more interested in everything else other than you. So you need to start at, the foundation of things, really build a solid foundation of listening, of understanding before making things more challenging. So I mean, that's quite a long, thorough explanation to a very simple question, Dogman. But, it's something that I've been talking about lately with some students. And I think it's really important for you guys at home to really understand that. What else do we have to talk about? Anything? Introducing dogs to other dogs. Like how we have a video on the channel that talks about if you're maybe a multi-dog household or you have another animal in the home, you talked a little bit about training the puppy and not introducing to the other dogs, but let's just break down for a moment how we do introduce those dogs in our household.
Well, typically when we have our puppies, we'll introduce them to the dogs in our household. In our case, we have multiple dogs and they're all very different from each other. So we might introduce our puppy to some of our calmer dogs that maybe aren't as interested in the puppy or that are going to be, really relaxed and chill around the puppy. And then we will really monitor it closely to ensure the puppy's not irritating them and that the older dogs are behaving the way that they should as well. And then when we are doing that, we will have them in a more controlled environment first. So I wouldn't all of a sudden throw my puppy on a leash and go for a half-hour walk around the block with all my other dogs when the puppy doesn't really know what they're doing. We would do it very calmly and slowly until we are getting more focus.
Daniela.
All of our dogs have a ton of training. So what's really nice is I'll have my other dogs come in and lie down and stay. And then while my dogs, one dog's lying down on the bed, I'm training my puppy 2 feet away. So my puppy sees that dog and she's learning to listen to me and stay focused. She can see the other dog, but she's learning to stay engaged. So we kind of do it in a bit more of a controlled manner.
Yeah, Daniela with the super chat. Thank you very much for the super chat. Says, other than bite inhibition, what should a puppy absolutely have learned by the time they are 6 months old? So this is let's just talk about some of the stuff that we might talk about in all of our puppy training classes.
Yeah,
some of the exercises.
In our puppy training classes, the whole purpose of our puppy training classes, so the reason why we have a specific puppy class before we get into our life skills types of stuff is because we're setting the puppy up to have a super solid foundation so that when you go into the next steps, you cruise through them much more easily because you've already created a solid baseline. So by the time they're 6 months old, the puppy probably has a pretty solid understanding of what their name is already. They have some, little bit of impulse control. They probably have a casual recall. What else do we do? We do some confidence building things.
All kinds, yeah.
All kinds of stuff. That's such a big question, sort of hard to answer.
Yeah,
honestly.
And there's so many exercises that we do that have multiple things.
Are you talking about our 6-month-old dog or an average 6-month-old dog? The answers are very, very different. If you take our online classes, then there's obviously certain things that you'll have accomplished by the end of the program, and then you'll be ready to go into our life skills program. But there's a solid base done on a 6-month-old dog for sure.
Here's the other
but most 6-month-old dogs don't have a lot of training because people don't know what to do.
Right. Here's the other interesting thing, though, is depending on your puppy's progress, if you have a bunch of specific challenges specific to your dog, then your puppy might progress a little bit more slowly. And that 6-month mark isn't that important. It doesn't, you cross over that 6 month and your puppy you're still working on something. Maybe it's like fear of loud trucks. I don't know what the thing is, but you're working on something, and you want to make sure that you have focused on that thing, making them more confident and comfortable. Maybe, they have trouble, with your response to name. That's the thing you're going to focus on entirely, as you work through these exercises with your puppy. It's so much less about their age, so much more about their skills and understanding.
Yeah, I was going to say something and I forget what it was. Oh, the other thing that maybe you're not going to want to hear is sometimes when dogs, you do all kinds of training, and when dogs hit like 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, 12 months, they hit what we call adolescent stage, and your adorable, sweet puppy who's just been so perfect turns into a terrible 2.
They're still perfect. They're just less
And that's
perfect.
really normal as well. So if you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, my dog is 7 months old and they're like a hellion right now, that's pretty normal. Puppies go through little like ups and downs. And that's why we need to get you trained. Our classes are all
so
about
important, guys.
training you guys on what to do so that when you get a bump in the road, you're like, okay, they said this was going to happen. And this is how I'm going to deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. That is such an important thing to remember for you guys, for sure, is that you're taking away the skills. That way you can apply these same training skills and that level of understanding to new environments, to new situations, so that you're always prepared.
I was trying to show you.
Let's put this up. This is a good question from one of our students, Chelsea Lewis. Are there plans for levels beyond life skills, come, stay, and heal?
Oh, yeah.
Funny you should ask, Chelsea.
Yes, there are many plans. We have a lot of plans that we're going to be doing to open up our whole online school. Right now we have our 2 main programs, our Puppy Essentials program, which is for puppies, and we have Life Skills, which is for dogs over 6 months. And then we have some cool workshops as well that are sort of directed at specific skills. But we have a lot of things in the works that are going to be coming out in the next little bit. Specific courses on, teaching your dog to come, on walking, more advanced training, so you'll be able to build on things, because at the end of, our life skills program, your training is not done. There's lots more to do to bring things to a higher level. So in our in-house school, which currently is not running, obviously, because of the life situation, we have 4 levels of training, 5 levels of training, actually. And so as we move up in the levels, the behaviors that we work in each level are very similar, but the expectation that we are asking of the dog goes higher and higher and higher until we get to the point where we don't need to rely on food all of the time. We don't need to rely on a leash all the time. We work on verbal control and reliability around distractions, proofing our dog in different locations and with different distractions. So that's kind of where we're gearing it. So right now we're in the process of taking our in-house classes and forming some more programs that people can access online if they're not able to join us in class. Or maybe you live, we're in Ontario, Canada. Maybe you live in the States, or we had people from all over the place. You can still train with us even if you're at a distance.
I just wanted to drop J. Michael Probert. Dropping a super chat. J. Michael Probert says here, my 5-year-old rehome dog barks when a dog barks outside, even without seeing the other dog. It's hard to proactively redirect her. Do you have any tips? It's a great question, and we talk a little bit, and this could be one of the socialization kinds of experiences. And being able to so a couple things that I'm thinking about right away. Number one, I would try to set the dog up with some sounds, like some interrupted sounds that might be happening outside, so that you can work through it and you're prepared for it. It's very hard to proactively deal with a situation like that. But even so it's hard to know specifically what the dog's. I imagine it's not a one bark. It's probably a bark, 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 and an unresolved bark. You need to interrupt that behavior. Hey, knock it off, leave that, and redirect the dog away. And then when your dog is, did you mention the dog's name?
No.
When your dog is not focused, not going completely crazy about barking at the door, at the window, outside, then you can start to, that's better. Good quiet. Way to go, buddy. It's working on that quiet command is going to be really helpful for you guys. But again, you do need to have a little bit of extra control. So while you're working through this situation, your dog should be dragging a house line or a leash. We brought a 8-year-old dog into our house, or 7-year-old at the time, and he wore a house line, just like the rest of our puppies do, just like the rest of our dogs do. Kayl, you brought a Papillon that was what, 6 or 7?
No, when I got him, he was 2.
He was 2. So 2-year-old Papillon into the house, dog gets a house line. That way, it doesn't matter what the problem is that you're working on, you have a little bit more control, and it doesn't have to be a race to take control of the dog. It's also a lot less scary than you rushing up and taking hold of them when you're trying to interrupt some behavior, and dog's like, what on earth is happening? This is really weird. And so having a leash or line on gives you a little bit more control, but turning the dog away, insisting that they leave that sound or they stop barking, because barking is a pretty self-rewarding behavior for your dog. It feels good. It just feels good to bark. Kind of like when I toot this train whistle. So you want to be able to interrupt that situation. So Aaron Mick, a question, is it okay to feed your puppy in your crate? It's a great idea to feed your puppy in their crate.
Yeah.
And Andy mentions when we're talking about the adolescent period, and he mentions, I'm scared for that age, but I think I'm ready for what's coming. Again, this is why you really focus on you learning. We're teaching you how to be a better trainer, better information giver for your dog.
Yeah, sometimes what happens is, your training starts to go really well and people start to relax their rules with the puppy a little bit, and they think like, yeah, I really got these things under control. And then all of a sudden the puppy hits adolescence and all hell breaks loose, and it's like, oh my gosh. And what the way I describe it is you have a puppy who doesn't know any better, and so they typically naturally follow their human around, and they're cute and they're snuggly, and like they just, they're just that adorable like baby puppy stage. Then they start to get a little bit more worldly, and you start to teach them things, and they're making good choices, maybe a few bad choices here and there, and then you sort of ride that wave for a while, and then they hit adolescence. And when puppies are making poor choices, typically it's because they don't know any better and they need to learn what's right. What's crappy about dogs who are in adolescence is typically they know better, but they're choosing not to because they're testing you. They're trying to say, okay, it's been 6 months, it's been 8 months. Are the rules still the same? And if I chew on the couch or if I bite at you or whatever, what are you going to do about it now? Are we still in the same relationship as we were before, or am I allowed to do these things? And so sometimes what happens when you have an adolescent dog is you have to go back on some of the freedoms that you may have given your dog that they have earned. Take them away for a little bit, tighten the ropes a bit more until you sort of ride through the storm. And then typically they usually have one more later in their development, and then you're good to go, provided you're doing the right things.
Jose.
Hey, Jose.
Is it okay to leave non-interactive toys laying around for my puppy to play with at his leisure when I have him out of the crate, or should they be put away until I can play with him? Great question. One of our puppy essentials students. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, Jose, I would put them away unless you're going to play with them because you want him to sort of be gravitating to more like chew type toys, whether it's like bones or Kong or things that they could like really, he could lie down and chew without wrecking or hurting himself. And then keep the interactive toys away, put them in a box or something like that. Bring them out, do some training with them, use them as a reward, and then put them away. We don't give our dogs access to any type of interactive toys. Just when they're hanging out in the house, they would probably squeak them nonstop and drive us crazy. But we have all kinds of them when we play with them often. We play retrieve. I'll use them as a reward a lot of the time too, especially we love doing like restraint recalls.
This is really important.
Ken will hold the puppy and then I'll like shake the tug toy and then call them and then take off and run, and they'll chase me and then we'll play a game of tug. So we use them a lot for training and for reinforcement and for fun. But then when we're done, we put it away, which keeps it more valuable, makes that toy even more exciting. Yep. And then it also just teaches the dog to learn to just go and chill and lie down and chew on toys that are safer. Not toys, but interactive toys. Yeah. So toys. Something that I pride myself on is teaching our dogs to tug because it's such a valuable skill. The thing I really love about it, and the thing I discovered about the game of tug, is it's such a wonderful way to include me in that interactive thing. Karen Blackwell dropping the super chat. Karen, thank you very much for your super chat. We'll answer that in just a second. But using that interactive toy and making it special for, those special times when they have something high value,
like your recall, when you're working on your recall with your puppy, whether it's a name, or Kayl talked a little bit about those restraint recalls, having something that the puppy only gets, and they get to get super pumped and super high about it as we play a game of tug, is really valuable. And what I'll often do is I'll often tease the dog a little bit with it.
This is our toy basket.
So not a lot of great interactive toys here. I guess they're all kind of interactive.
Toys.
This is good. This is something that I wanted to talk about.
My dogs like this one.
So something like this. I love these guys. Here's what's great about these. Super springy, so it's great for the dog hits the end of the tug and they go zipping around. What's cool about it is you can actually put food in it. So if your dog doesn't love toys that much, it's a little bit more motivating for them. But I love these things for interaction and engagement and really keeping the dogs, thinking that I'm a lot of fun. But the only time they get to have this much fun is when I'm included. So it's
our
a great way to
dogs
work on your
can't
fetch
wait
as well.
for us to walk over and pull something out of that basket because they know they're about to do something really fun with us. Mm-hmm. Karen Blackwell's question.
Okay, give me 1 second here. This one?
Nope.
Let's see, where's Karen? There it is. Yes. Oh, right. Karen Blackwell, puppets on the house line. How do I know when to provide more freedom? Great question, Karen. Like being in other rooms, and how do I go about that? Really, really good question. So let's talk about phasing out of. It sounded very Canadian there. I realized when I said it. Let's talk about phasing out your house line.
We do not talk like that, though.
No, not at all. But it's funny. My American friends think it's hilarious when I talk about it.
We start to phase out the house line when we get to the point where we can't think of the last time we ever had to pick it up and use it for some reason, and the dog truly is listening to our voice. Our dogs wear a house line for months, just to give you a sense of time, months and months and months. And when we're working on starting to open up the freedom in our house, typically we condition our dogs to be in the same room we are, especially when they're young. So if we're in the kitchen, they have a house line on, the kitchen's barricaded, they're not being able to go into other rooms without us going with them. And if we're going to open that up, we would do it very one room at a time, very slowly. They could still be wearing their house line at that point. But we just sort of do it slowly. It's so hard to give you an exact sense of time because it just depends on the dog. Some dogs are bigger chewers than others or have had more repetitions of bad choices in the past, and it just takes longer. But basically, in a nutshell, when you can't think of the last time your dog's chewed something or had an accident in the house or, wasn't listening to you, then it's probably time to open things up a little bit, but you're going to do it very gradually. And, it could be we could leave Beeline loose if we were going out now, but we don't really even. We just, our dogs love to go in their crates. So if we go out, we'll still pop up, several of them in their crates. Or our dogs are just they get sort of, they're behind a baby gate. In one of sort of our dog room area, so they're not in crates, but they're sort of confined. They're not running all over the house, but we trust them to do that. Where other dogs we would put away just to make sure that they're not going to hurt themselves.
Yeah, for sure. Now it's been a super busy night. Now I want
Holy.
you guys to be aware. The big thing that I wanted you to be aware of for sure was that tonight you have access until midnight Eastern Standard Time. So there's still a couple of hours to get $75 off our Puppy Essentials program. If you have a puppy, you're a puppy in training. You saw. We had a few people jump on, grab that coupon code, but it's only available until tonight at midnight. So take advantage of that if you're looking for some more focused puppy training, and you guys will be included in the live stream tomorrow with Kayl and instructor Steve specifically about crate training. I did see
somebody ask earlier in the chat if the program was a live classes.
Okay.
So it's a couple things. So there's sort of program weekly progressions on a bunch of things, plus a whole bunch of other things to work on. And then there's also a forum chat situation where you can post questions and videos.
Poster
and
wins. Actually, I've seen
ask us questions.
Jose Jose has been sharing all the amazing videos.
Yes.
Of his dog, really exciting,
so
super fun stuff to watch. So that's the kind of stuff we love seeing from our Puppy Essential students.
Yeah, and then the other thing that we do is weekly live Q&As. So we'll have a specific time in the week that we'll jump on. We'll either have a specific topic that we're going to talk to you about, or we'll just answer your questions right then and there. But we have instructors that are in in the classroom, all the time answering questions, either about the program or behavioral things or whatever it might be. So there's lots and lots and lots of help. It is like a 4 or 5 week program, but you get 3 months to do it. So, you can kind of work through it at a pace that is best for you and your dog and your family.
For sure. Sorry, just adjusting something here. I said Dan fired a command. There it is. So the other thing I need to mention is a huge thank you to Dan. Lots of links looting, firing up the moderation in tonight's stream. I saw him giving you guys tons of great information. This is another great example. Dan is the man, and we certainly appreciate his help, along with Spot the Bot, who's just a bot and fires stuff, but Dan sets all those up. So thank you very much, Dan, for all of your hard work tonight. You were working hard, and we do appreciate it. Also, I want to thank you guys for joining us. Now, if you're one of our new puppy seminar students who would normally have been coming to our training facility and we'd be hanging out in person, I look forward to a time when we can do that. But I hope you found tonight's, interesting, informative, and you can certainly reach out to us with any follow-up questions. But you also got some very specific information in your email about your opportunity to join the puppy program. So make sure you double check that email. And we look forward to seeing you.
There's a special treat in there for you.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing you in the program. Now, if this is your first time on the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We publish new videos every week to help you to have a well-behaved, four-legged family member. It's been a wild night. My throat's getting dry. I need to get some more delicious orange water, and I had a lot of fun. All because of you guys hanging out, asking great questions, and all the tooting I've been doing. On that note, I want to thank you guys for joining us. I'm Ken.
I'm Kayl.
Happy training. Bye for now, guys.